I used to think blue chip stocks were a great long term option until this happened to me. This year, I made a move that most investors would probably raise an eyebrow at. YieldMax funds have taken the investing world by storm in 2025, from weekly payers to monthly, with a growing list of high yield funds. I recently sold over $5,000 of a blue chip stock that really let me down, and I reallocated those funds into YieldMax's YMAX. Now, before we jump into it, remember this video is not financial advice, just my personal experience. With that, let's dive in. I've always been interested in ETF investing, mostly focused on growth, with the occasional dividend fund sprinkled in. But last year, I decided to take a chance and open a small position in a blue chip stock, Costco. On paper, it looked like a solid move. Costco's dominant name in a defensive sector, backed by a strong balance sheet and a ton of bullish price targets. I even looked at their past performance, and they'd been averaging nearly 20% annual growth. At the time, it seemed like a no-brainer. I placed my order in November 2024 for about $5,900 worth of Costco stock at an average price of around $930 per share. Not long after, the stock started climbing fast. It hit record highs over $1,000, and for a moment, I thought I had nailed it. I felt confident, like I finally picked the right individual stock, but the next few months really changed things. Costco was supposed to be a reliable, steady player in my portfolio, something that I could count on to deliver slow, consistent growth, but instead, I kept watching it bounce between $900 to $1,050 per share. The price fluctuated constantly, and it felt like it could never gain some real momentum. After a few months of this, I started comparing its performance to broader indexes like the S&P 500, and that's when it really hit me. What I thought would be a safe, consistent investment was actually one of the weakest performers in my portfolio. That's when I started looking at other options. If you've been following the channel, you'll know that I've been pretty interested in these YieldMax funds. They're generally considered high risk, and a lot of investors are concerned about the potential NAV decay over time, but in return, they offer some serious dividend payouts. They still make up a small percentage of my overall portfolio, but after holding a few for a while, they've started to grow on me. If you saw my YieldMax portfolio video, you'll know that I've been holding NVDY, MSTY, and most recently ULTY. They're definitely volatile, but the cash flow they generate gives me flexibility, and I can reinvest it wherever I want. That's when I started thinking, what if I just moved this capital from my Costco position into one of these YieldMax funds? Now, this is a bit of a bold move. The intention of the Costco position was to pick up a slow and steady player that could help grow my portfolio long term, and now I'm looking at a high risk dividend fund as a replacement. There's obviously a lot of options on YieldMax's website, but for me, I've really been enjoying the weekly cash flow from ULTY, but at the same time, I've been extremely curious about other YieldMax funds, which is what brought me to YMAX, the Universe Fund of Option Income ETFs. YMAX is what's called the fund of funds, meaning it primarily invests in other YieldMax ETFs. The portfolio gets rebalanced every month, so any new YieldMax ETFs can be added in and everything stays equally weighted. Now, they still label this fund as high risk, and that's fair, but to me, spreading the risk across multiple YieldMax products instead of just one individual company felt like a smarter play in this space. The yield is also massive, with a trailing 12-month yield sitting above 60%, but honestly, what sold me the most was the weekly dividends. After seeing how powerful the weekly cash flow is with ULTY and how I can redirect that income however I want, I knew I wanted another weekly payer in the mix, and that's what made YMAX such a strong option for me. Now let's take a look at the actual positions directly from my brokerage, starting with the Costco shares I sold to free up this capital. So I bought into Costco on November 12th, 2024 with a total investment of $5,814. Over the course of 10 months, I collected two small dividends, one for $7 and another for $8, which felt very minimal given the size of this position. Eventually, I sold out in August 2025 for around $5,939, which means I made a bit over $100 in total. Not terrible, but definitely underwhelming for holding this for almost a year. Now, with that cash, I rotated into YMAX. The price I got was around $13.26 per share, which gave me about 449 shares. At the time of recording, the ex-dividend was declared at roughly 1.2%, or about 14 cents per share. That means my upcoming weekly payout is going to be around $65, and now I've got some thinking to do where I reallocate that income next. In my other videos, I've talked about using a 50-50 approach, where I reinvest half of my dividends back into YieldMax funds to keep compounding and allocate the other half into more growth-oriented ETFs that I'm more comfortable holding long term. I'm planning to stick with that same strategy here with YMAX. These are high-risk funds, no question, so I want to make sure I'm also consistently cash flowing into more stable, established positions. That said, if these YieldMax funds continue gaining momentum over the next few years, I'll still have some benefit from the compounding on that side of the portfolio as well. For me and my risk tolerance, it's all about balance. I'm not too worried about the short-term price swings, but I do want to protect my capital and make sure I've got some cushion in case there's a sudden downturn. I'm also adding this to my YieldMax tracker, so if you've been following the channel, expect to see more monthly updates on my dividends and overall performance across the YieldMax funds I own. With this latest purchase, I've now invested around $10,700 of my own capital into these products, so here's to hoping they can hold strong for a while as I continue stacking these payouts and working to grow this income stream over time. I won't go too in depth today on this tracker and the status of all my YieldMax products I'm holding. We'll save that for another video, so make sure to subscribe if you want to catch that update. But I'm curious, what do you think of these high yield funds, and how much of your overall portfolio do they make up? Remember, this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only and reflects my personal views. I'm not a licensed financial advisor, so always do your own research and consult a professional before making investment decisions. And remember, past performance does not guarantee future results.